Let's welcome our second guest of the evening onto the call. He's the main man in the chat, Dave from Boxing's First. How are you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm keeping well, thanks. Watching much boxing. I know you were talking about the top rank card earlier in the chat there.
Yeah, I've got the same opinion as you guys, really. It's good to have boxing back, but there's nothing out there that shouts, stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning and watch me. It is what it is. Maybe they're testing things. We know that Eddie's going on about his garden fights and things like that, but nothing big's really materialising at the minute.
Yeah, Eddie's garden fights don't look like they're happening at the moment, but he's giving it a go. I mean, far from Eddie to say something that wasn't going to take place. His roster's looking a bit thin at the moment, though, Dave.
Yeah, it is. He's going to have to put the work in. And there's all this talk about the troubles with the zone. There seems to be a lot of negativity around at the minute, but we just need to get back in. When can we start filling stadiums again? Because it's hurting every sport, isn't it? We were talking about the football before, and it's just not the same. But obviously, we need to put safety first before the sport. But it's definitely hurting not just sport, but all industries at the minute, isn't it?
It certainly is. I mentioned Boxing's First there. You've obviously got the YouTube channel, do some really good videos, looking into fights, analysing them, breaking them down. Want to give the guys a bit of a shout out, tell you what you've been up to, what sort of fights you've been looking at lately?
Well, this week I've been doing something a bit different. Obviously, Boxrec, they put out their pound for pound list in February, was it? They updated it anyway. And there was a lot of controversy, whereas my first thoughts was, where's Inoue, where's Beterbiev? They just wasn't there. And then you've got Lomachenko down in 9. So I've never known how they work that system out. And to be honest, I've been looking at it all week, and I have put a video out. It's half an hour long, and I still don't 100% know how they put them points together. How can you have a mathematical formula for something as alive as boxing, as something with just so many variables as boxing? It's never going to sit 100% true.
When it comes to Boxrec, should we just put these type of things to one side and just say, look, it's a great resource for finding out fighters' records. A lot of volunteers do a brilliant job, and just take the positives and say, you know what, they can have their algorithms, which have been controversial for quite a long time, the way they add up pound for pound fighters, and just take it for what it is, maybe?
100%, I agree with that. I remember when I started my YouTube channel back in January, and what I started doing first was a series called 5 in 5, which was looking at a fighter's 5 best fight and try to break them down in 5 minutes. And you can't remember every fighter's best 5 wins, you know. So to have them records at hand like that, and then there's also links to Wiki from Boxrec, so they'll throw you across to Wikipedia where you can read up on the fight, and obviously they'll shortcut to videos and things like that. It's a really good tool for looking back at previous fights. So just to see, you know, if you've got a fight coming this weekend, who've they fought before, what type of styles have they been in with, and it's priceless really as a website. But like you said, the algorithm and the point system, it just isn't there. I don't think it ever will be.
No, I agree. Shout out to John Shep, who runs the Boxrec channel as well. Dave's with us here. So the big fight on everybody's lips, whether it will take place or not, who knows? Fury versus Joshua. You're a great man for a style and tactical breakdown. How do you think this fight could be won and lost? What is each guy going to do, or try to counteract the other fella? I mean, it's intriguing, a stylistic matchup more than anything. How do you see it?
It is very interesting, especially with the way that Tyson Fury came out in his last fight in a way that he said he would, and nobody had seen it before, and how effective he was. And I was just saying, I've got a couple of mates who don't like boxing. They're not big into boxing. They're only part-time mates for that reason. But I said to them, if I showed you Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 2, and I showed you Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz 2, and asked who would win between Fury and Joshua, 100% of the people who don't really watch boxing would say Tyson Fury, just for how explosive he was. So looking back at that, I looked to see when Tyson Fury had looked vulnerable, and obviously he had the knockdown against Steve Cunningham, and we had the fight with a lot of people saying Otto Wallin fight, he looked vulnerable. So I just tried to see how they sort of brought their style into the ring to try and get at Fury, because if you watched him in the Wilder 2 fight, there's no real way to beat him. So you have to look back to when he was vulnerable. And I think you can't chase Tyson Fury down. If you go after him, his movement's so good, he'll just make you miss, he'll make you pay. But at the same time, you can't be too back-footed, because if you back off from him and he gets that weight behind his shots, again, you're in a world of trouble there. So, but what Wallin and what Steve Cunningham looked to do was, when Fury was throwing that lead left jab, he carries it at his waist, his hand naturally, his lead hand. And as he came forward with that jab, they met him. and they threw at the same time as him, and that's where the opening was. If you watch when Cunningham knocks him down with that massive overhand right, he timed his lead jab, because as Fury brings that jab back in, he naturally brings it back to his waist, because that's where it's comfortable, that's where he sits it, and he's open at that point. So timing is massive to beat Tyson Fury. I don't think you can go inside and wrestle him and out-brawl him, because Joshua's just not big enough to do that. So...
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so that's the only weaknesses that I could see in his game. Obviously, with the Walling fight, he had the cut on his eye as well, so it might be good for Joshua, even though it's not really in his comfort zone. Is to just get a bit rough with him. You know, we've all seen the heads go in with the likes of Holyfield, Hopkins, people like that. We've seen elbows go in, and they can turn fights, even though it's not by the book. That can turn a fight, and he did seem to struggle with that eye Fury. He was constantly dabbing at it. It bothered him. So he could really swing it in his favour that way. But with...
Yeah, you make a good point, because I remember when Big John McDermott gave him so much trouble. Obviously, he was a taller, sort of pudding-shaped heavyweight, but he got the jab off well. And whenever Fury fought the guys like Nikolai Firther, I was at that fight at the time, Firther really went at him and threw wild, swinging hooks. And Nevin Pajkic was the same as well. But this new defensively responsible, negative, almost to a point Fury, negated that, and he wasn't getting knocked down as much, apart from obviously when he went back in against Cunningham. But it's interesting points that you make. As for Anthony Joshua himself, what has he got to do then, do you think? What can he do with his own abilities to try and get at Fury? Because a lot of people at the moment in the, well, I suppose in the hardcore boxing community think that Fury, if he gets the jab going and gets moving, then he'll maybe box AJ's ears off. But AJ's no mug, you know, he's going to be able to do things himself.
Yeah, AJ's definitely not a mug. The people are having a go because he lost to an Andy Ruiz, or Andy Ruiz only came in last minute, but that can work against you as well. If you're preparing for Big Baby Miller, and Andy Ruiz comes into the ring, he's completely different size and shape. Well, maybe not shape, but he's a different size, different fighter than Miller. So it worked against Joshua as well. So Joshua had to make changes to, you know, to try and get the win. Obviously, he didn't get it that night, and he came back and he did what he had to do in the rematch. But he's got power, Joshua. He has got a shot on him, and he fires straight shots. When Fury was preparing for Wilder's looping. He's round the outside, and it seems easy to defend against, and it is if you're going, straight line shots down the middle. So if he can time and get under that lead jab of Fury and time a right hand down the middle, I think he has got a real chance. But it's just hard when Tyson Fury has shown such a devastating performance against a 5-year champion who didn't have the best resume, no, but he's still a 5-year champion, and he destroyed him the way he did. It's hard to see how you're going to negate that, how you're going to get past that. But for me, he's got to keep his shot straight, and he's got to get under that jab and get that right hand over the top.
Neck on the line then, Dave, if it does go to plan, obviously we're looking at both guys sometime next year. How do you think it will play out? By what method of victory does the main man come out on top?
I can't look past a Fury stoppage. I really can't, because Fury's style is more wrong for Joshua than Joshua's is for Fury. We've seen when Joshua's in most trouble is when a fighter goes at him. He dropped Ruiz. He had Andy Ruiz down, and it seemed like Andy Ruiz's mindset flipped then. He just said, you know what, I'm just going to have a go. I'm going to put it on you, and if you knock me out, you knock me out, but I'm going to give everything I've got. And as soon as you rush Anthony Joshua, he seems panicked. He did seem panicked in that fight, and he didn't like the constant, the high pace, the rough and tumble. He didn't seem to like that, and Tyson Fury thrives in that. Tyson Fury loves going inside, loves going to the trenches, and he'll fight there all night. Whereas Joshua just seems to like to be patient. He'll move. He'll see what's in front of him. He's not he's just all wrong for him. For me, Fury is all wrong for Joshua, and I can't see it. I want it to be a really good fight. So they've signed for 2 fights potentially. Well, obviously they haven't signed. They've sort of agreed purses for 2 fights. You wouldn't want a really quick stoppage in the first fight or a really clear result, and then the second fight means what then? It doesn't mean a great deal. So you'd like a close fight, so the second fight's even more intriguing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You think of like Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield or something, and the way those fights went. But if, like you say, if someone gets knocked out, but even more so than getting knocked out early, if someone gets completely dominated and is clueless, like a Calzaghe Lacey type performance by the end of 12 rounds, where's the appetite of to go back again and look at that? You do need a sort of Bowe Holyfield fight, or maybe not at that level because that's sort of the elite of the elite, but maybe something like that. There's competitive. There's that area. We say, well, if this happened, if that, whenever Wilder Fury, it went to the draw, but even if someone had won, you could have said, well, he knocked him down and he got back up again, just to keep that intrigue and keep it open for the second fight.
Yeah, exactly. There was that hunger there because you had the Tyson Fury fans or the people that felt Tyson Fury won that first fight with Wilder, who wanted the rematch so Fury could get his redemption. And then you had the people who were saying, well, Tyson Fury was down for 11 seconds or 12 seconds or whatever they were saying. So there was that hunger there for them to get to see who the better fighter was. But like you say, if this is a one-sided beating, who wants to see it twice? It just doesn't make sense. But obviously, they will do it twice if the money's there. Like Deontay Wilder wants to get in again. He doesn't want to get in again because I personally don't feel he stands a chance in that third fight with Fury. He wants to get in there because there's no other fight that brings that money for Deontay Wilder. So
well said, yeah. No, you're right. Just before we let go, Dave, I want to get your opinions on Gennady Golovkin because I watched your Golovkin Derevyanchenko breakdown, the little nuances, the things they were doing. What do you think about Golovkin? As in, I mean, he's not shot. That's a ridiculous thing to say, but possibly on the slide. Where do you think he's at the moment?
He's certainly in the latter stages of his career, isn't he? He said after that fight, I was watching is it Montero on Boxing Live, and somebody went in the chat saying they've got it on good terms that he had COVID-19 in that fight. I said, well, that's ridiculous because Derevyanchenko would have left the fight with COVID-19 surely, and nobody tested positive. So I don't know where these people come from, but he certainly didn't seem 100%, did he? He seemed a lot tighter, a lot earlier than he usually does. And Chenko's not a bad fighter. If he faces Canelo next, we'll see where Chenko's at because I think he's a very solid fighter. Obviously, if you've seen the video, I did give it to Chenko on points. I thought he should have got the decision, but I can't take too much from Golovkin in that fight. If he was, as we all suspect, he maybe had flu, he maybe had a cold. He didn't look himself. But I think, what we're talking 2 years maybe of Triple G left, possibly. I'd like to see the Canelo fight again. I definitely think he's still competitive at that level. So if he can fight a Canelo, he can fight anybody in the next 2 years. He's definitely not dropped that much, if he's dropped at all.
I think the key will be how quick they get him back into the ring. I don't think he's someone who needs to sit on the sidelines for any longer than possible. I know obviously the situation we're in at the moment, but he is one of these guys that they need to get back in against somebody who's going to push him, obviously not beat him, and shed that rust and then aim for Canelo. Because I think if he sits on the shelf for too much longer, it's going to be really detrimental, like you say, given that of his age and the fact that he only has a limited shelf life left.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at when Andre Ward did the number on Kovalov and people said it could have gone either way and things like that. Kovalov seemed to lose interest in the sport. Obviously, he went on, he fought Yard, he went on, he got beat off Canelo. But I think Golovkin, he hasn't lost interest. He could have felt sorry for himself. He could have looked at the decisions and said, I'm not having this in boxing, I'm being screwed, and sort of lost a step. But he doesn't. He seems still geared up and still keen, and that tells me that he still feels he's at that level. And like you say, he wouldn't walk straight in with a Canelo next. I can't see that. He needs something just to keep him ticking over, make sure it's still there, and then, like you say, get in and let's have this trilogy.
Lovely stuff, Dave. Thanks for joining us. Where can everybody find you? Give us the shout outs to all the channels, social medias and whatnot.
Yeah, mostly on Twitter for the social media at Boxing's First, and YouTube at Boxing's First as well. So you can find me on both of them. And like I say, I only started in January, slowly growing. It was a good time to start because you had to look forward to Wilder and Fury, the rematch, and then suddenly we have no boxing at all. So everyone, like the IFL boys, are recycling stuff. Everybody's recycling old news or grasping at anything to try and get a video out. It's difficult times. But yeah, Twitter at Boxing First, YouTube at Boxing First, and we'll keep the ball rolling and look forward to big fights.
Absolutely, they're coming soon. Thanks very much, Dave. Everybody go and give him a follow, doing some great stuff over there. You're welcome back anytime. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, pal. Have a good one.
All the best. Thank you.
Bye-bye.